Welcome to the Near Still Waters podcast, where we journey together towards clarity and calm in the midst of life's storms. Hi, I'm your host, Susie Lubbers, a wife, a life coach, and a mama to 7 amazing grown children. Having homeschooled all of my children, including my special needs child, I've navigated the challenges of raising them and experienced the bittersweet moments of letting go. This journey has not been about teaching academics, but also about discovering how to find peace and purpose through every season of life. You can learn more about me and my mission at nearstillwaters.ca. In this space, we're dedicated to empowering moms. Whether you're in the trenches of homeschooling, navigating special needs parenting, seeking to rediscover your own passions after years of putting others first, you're not alone. Together, we'll explore strategies to bring clarity into the chaos of motherhood and uncover ways to cultivate calm within ourselves, even while accomplishing the hard things. Each episode will share stories, practical tips, inspirational guidance to help you embrace your journey with grace, resilience, and faith. So grab a cup of coffee, take a deep breath, and let's step into a space of learning and growth. Welcome to the Near Still Waters podcast, where your journey to clarity and peace begins. So, how are you?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm really good. I didn't hear exactly where you live. I know you were
Oh,
trying to
I'm in Illinois, so
Illinois.
we're like
Okay,
right in the
I'm
center.
in nice. I'm in Ontario, Canada.
Oh,
Yeah.
wonderful.
So it's nice to speak to you. What's it like in Illinois today?
Very hot and thunderstorms.
Oh, okay. Well, we've had that too here in Ontario, but it's better. So maybe it's coming your way today.
I hope so. I hope
Yeah.
I like
Okay.
thunderstorms. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There's something special about them too, eh?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm just going to introduce Ariel Shiota. I don't know if I'm saying
Yeah.
that last name right. Ariel is known on Instagram as Blessed With Motherhood, and she is a homeschool mom of 3 daughters. And she has a home that's rooted in Christ and desires to have a home rooted in Christ. Her homeschooling style is Charlotte Mason, which I'm really excited to delve into that with you today. And I love helping, and she loves helping other families find a passion for homeschooling and for books. And I'd like to also get into what kind of books you would suggest, so some of our moms can hear what you would suggest and what you feel is good. So I just wondering, can you provide the homeschool moms that are on MySpace about and just tell them about some items you provide and that you're really excited about, to maybe help them, or that would be useful for them in the upcoming year? Would
Well,
you?
like for like books or
Yeah, books
just
or just anything that you have right now that you're excited about to offer moms. Any
well,
item.
I really like providing book lists. I offer like free book lists on my Instagram all the time, just like books for
Mhm.
mom and books for children that are like living books. My focus is mostly living books,
Okay.
books that all ages can enjoy. So,
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So, if you are interested in some, like I was just on your Instagram and she has so many beautiful things on her Instagram. So head on over to her Instagram and find there's lots there to look into. My kids are all grown, so I'm waiting great for grandkids, and then I'm going to be looking into this stuff again.
perfect.
It's just so fun. There's so much more available and such beautiful stuff available for kids today. Yeah. So what initially drew you to the Charlotte Mason style of homeschooling?
Well, I think I really enjoyed her principle of that children are born persons, which means like each child is their own individual. And so when looking at like homeschooling, especially like teaching a child as an individual rather than like teaching the curriculum, um, it just really helped me think like, okay, she knows what she's talking about. She knows that children are coming first in this method, and that they should be treated like individuals. You're not like, well, I have this curriculum, I'm gonna make it work for every single child. You're like, well, actually, one child is a little bit more visual, so I'm going to find something that might help, like maybe more pictures in a storybook to help with this individual child. So I really
Mm-hmm.
was drawn to that. And then I was also drawn to her emphasis on like living books and nature study and beauty subjects. All of those things were not taught to me in public school, in my public school experience. So I was drawn to like all this like rich, like feast of education that is very well rounded that I just didn't have. So I was drawn by that.
Yeah. So, where did you first come into the Charlotte Mason? Like you said, you were raised in a public school. So,
Mhm.
obviously, that's not even. I know in like Montessori is very widely known in
Yes,
like in their and but Charlotte Mason is much different than the Montessori. And
definitely.
how did you come and realize that this is really what I would want for my kids?
So when I first, well, I had planned on homeschooling even before I had children, and so I thought there was actually only one way to do it, which is funny. But
Good.
when I started seeing that there was like other methods, like once I started like Instagram, we just were, documenting, I was just documenting my homeschool journey. And I started noticing that there was like a bunch of different methods and I read them all and like, a lot of them sound really good.
Mm,
But I was just so drawn to the Charlotte Mason and just like it was exactly what I wanted for my children,
hmm
them to
hmm
be treated as individuals, all the living books, all the richness.
Yeah. Yeah. So I of course started homeschooling probably about 30 years ago. And I did have the whole series of Charlotte Mason, like the original series. Like I think it was a 6 books. You may have it yourself, but it's like six
Yeah.
books explaining the Charlotte Mason. And I went through them and I took a lot of ideas from it, but it really wasn't popular when I was doing it. But when I look back, that's exactly what we did, right? In the sense of making them individuals, um, making nature and play a big part of their homeschool journey. And I think um, our children today, as adults, look for back to those times as like playing in the creek, and they have the best memories of those
Yeah.
times. And my second son was very well, it was hard to get him to sit down. He was he was so busy, but he would read the World Book. In those days, we had encyclopedias. We didn't have the internet, so he would read the encyclopedias. And today, he's still a kid that, well, an adult that he knows all the facts about everything. Like just a he knows everything about everything. He knows it all, and it's just so fun to see that how each child is. An individual, and every child learns differently. Even with 7 children, they all learn differently, and it's
Yeah.
just amazing to be able to uh, instead of making them a person that has to do exactly what 25 other kids do, that you do it as a family kind of a thing, and it's really cool. So can you share some of your favorite Charlotte Mason resources or curriculum that you would use in
Well,
in
so we use Ambleside Online, which is a free Charlotte Mason curriculum. And it's called online because like all the plans, all the schedules, everything's online, but it's mostly for mom. But then you'd print the schedule out if you're a paper person or anything that you want, you can print out. But it's mostly just online, but then you bring it in to your children with like books. It's very heavy literature based. So I love that because it's introducing me to so many books I've never even heard of.
Mm.
So,
I know it. It's very true. Like when you homeschool, it's like relearning everything again. Like
right?
it's really fun actually, and so fun to learn alongside your children. So how do you implement that into your daily life? Like, can you tell me a little bit how you implement? Because of course, every you have 3 girls,
Yeah.
so every one of them is different too. I can well imagine.
Yeah.
So how do you implement that like in a diverse way so that they will all get benefit in their learning style?
Well, so another thing that I really like about Charlotte Mason is she has a big emphasis on short lessons. So that is so helpful when you have three different stages, like a baby, a toddler, and like a bigger kid. And so what I like to do is I like to give the youngest my attention first so that they're pretty content to just play after that. And then shorter lessons for my oldest so that like we usually don't end up doing anything more than like about an hour or an hour and a half. And it's just broken up into like maybe 10, 15, or even 20-minute lessons per subject. So that's really helpful. And I can include my daughters in on a lot of the readings. They're free to just, like my younger daughters, they're free to just go and play while I read. And then my oldest has to be the one that kind of focuses a little bit more. She's okay to like build blocks, but she'll have to narrate back to me. So then I kind of know like, is this working? Is she able to pay attention? Or maybe if the baby's screaming, we'll wait till nap time. So
Yeah. And that's the way it is in a family. It's always you can make a plan, but sometimes the plan gets moved when the kids are, and that's also
yes,
part of being individualized too. Like you can work through that as a family. Um,
very
so
flexible.
you have to be flexible. It is like I think too. When my kids were younger, it was important to have a schedule that you accomplish certain things. It wasn't like, oh, you could just do whatever you want all day, but
Right.
but you have to realize that life is just going to happen with a bunch of
Yes.
children, right?
You're like, I'm
So,
going to do math at 10 a.m. sharp, but then
mm,
maybe it's 10:30 or maybe it's 10:40.
exactly. Yeah, and that's all good, right? That's all good.
Right.
Um, but what are some of the benefits you have seen in your
Well,
family, in your children using the Charlotte Mason style of learning?
well, for Charlotte Mason, she's also really big into habit training. And so I found this has benefited myself included is when I have like a habit that I want to do. Like I want us to read the Bible every single day. And so we got to get into the habit of that. And I just noticed like the habit training and just like, even with chores, how I do it first, then they see how it's done, then we do it together, then they do it and I watch, then they do it. I really like how she breaks down habits and I've just seen the benefit of like my children can do so many things individually. Like I'm like, okay, let's start our morning routine. And so they'll get all their stuff done before we do our lessons. And my oldest, I really don't have to ask much. Sometimes I have to help her remember, or I'll put like a chart up and she can like refer to like what she hasn't done yet. But I just seen like it's just so amazing seeing like how much they can do at such a young age if you get
Mm.
into good habits. So,
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah. Um, so there'll be parents hopefully watching this, moms watching this that have never really are just starting, have never been introduced to the Charlotte Mason, or maybe been introduced, but like feel overwhelmed. Like I don't know how to implement this into my life. It seems like a lot of work, or um, yeah, just to provide. Can you provide some helpful beginner tips? When you first began, how did you implement that into your life so that it worked without
oh
feeling
yeah,
overwhelmed?
I totally get that. So I think the best tip is that it's okay to learn alongside your children because a lot of this stuff was new. So I'm constantly learning how to do it for myself as well. So like narration, take try it for yourself to see how hard it is. I'll read a book and then it seems silly to narrate to myself, but it's also so beneficial to see like what am I asking of my child? And then I see like, okay, it's actually a lot harder than it seems. So I can give her a little more grace or maybe like a shorter amount of reading in between narration. And so just like learning how to do stuff alongside your children and reading up on it. I haven't read all 6 volumes yet. I'm hoping before I
Mhm.
end my
It's
homeschooling journey to do that.
it's
But
quite the read.
it is. But I keep learning and I keep reading and just making time to like learn yourself so that you can teach. Like this year, I started pre-reading the books, which I thought, oh, that's way too much work. I'll never do it. But just like 15 minutes a day has been so beneficial, because then I'm like, oh, well, when I go and teach this, like I have these questions I wrote down that will be so helpful. Or like, this word, I don't think my daughter would know this word. So I've already like wrote the definition for it. So when she asks me, I won't like be taking a shot in the dark. I'll
Mhm.
be like, well, here's the definition, you know?
Mhm.
So just
Yeah,
like, just learning alongside your children, it's okay. And it's really beneficial.
right. That's for sure true. Like, if you're confident in what you're teaching, you can teach them confidently too, and then they learn from you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just love that concept. So you also said in to me, you told me that you want to be a Christ-centered home. So how do
Yes.
you think that works together with the Charlotte Mason style, and like how do you balance that out, the spiritual and academic components
Well, they're
together?
very, so Charlotte Mason, she intertwines everything with Christ, and like it always comes back down to the Bible, which is another reason why I really
Hmm.
like her methods. Some people do try to do her methods like without that faith-based.
Mm.
But I think it's really hard because she everything she does and says really comes back down to the Bible and the truth and goodness and beauty of all the things. So like
Hmm.
whenever I have a book, I think, is this going to honor God? Is this filled with truth, goodness, and beauty? And just taking that and just kind of like intertwining both our faith and like centering everything in Christ, as well as like academics, has just been, it's been a lot easier because they're so interwoven.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And then of course that as many parents, like I'm not, like you said, without the faith base, but many parents, especially homeschool parents, homeschool their children because they want a Christ-centered basis for their children's education. And then working that together and using the language and the books to draw that out in our children and to teach our children. It's nice when you can put the curriculums together and the books that you get are in you give to them. It's so helpful. And the Bible in Deuteronomy says, you teach your children in the morning when you wake up, at night when you go to bed, and everything in between. And that's part of the education. And it's
Right.
such a choice that we can wonderful choice that we can do that. I know in the Charlotte Mason style, science and math are not um, as prominent. They're not, like, it's more in the arts and the reading and the books. But how do you incorporate that into the science and the math into your homeschool day?
I feel like they're just not as vividly shown, especially in the Instagram community. But with reading Charlotte Mason, she starts science like right away. She'll have children that are in their early years, even before like formal lessons. She'll have them be doing nature study, and she has us like go outside and
Mhm.
observe nature. And so she has a big emphasis on nature study and natural science in the very beginning. But then, she has children wait a little bit like older. When they get older, then they start doing like more of like the biology and chemistry. And so I like that she has children start off slow and where they are with just observing the world around them. So we focus on nature study, and just nature journaling and just observing and having fun and enjoying nature and appreciating
Mhm.
nature. And then with math, I still wrap my head around the concept that she really emphasizes mental math, at least doing that, where you can do math in your head, which is something I struggle with. But she has children, like she recommends children do that a lot daily. And so that is also a really nice concept, is to try to kind of like push away from the workbooks. We do have a
Yes.
math curriculum that is like a little bit more like a workbook, but push away from the workbooks at least some days and just try to try to make sense of why you know this. Why does this math problem work, and do it in your head? So
Yeah, and that's super important. Like the nature is science, right? You don't have to sit down and do a textbook and a workbook to feel like you've accomplished.
right.
You can accomplish a lot just being outdoors with your children
That
and teach them God's creation and how it works, and then
that
reading through those
appreciation
things.
for nature. Yeah.
That's right. And sometimes that's so much more effective than sitting, well, you've got to do this workbook. It's over. It's not, no, it's never really over, right? Learning is lifelong. And I think
Yeah.
too that that's what I love about the Charlotte Mason is that it's not just, you're not learning from 4 to 18, you're learning from 4 to 86. You're continually learning throughout your life. And I do think that that's the way God created us to continue to learn because we do continue to learn, we continue to grow. And if you create that, in a sense, emotional intelligence within your children, they're going to want to continue instead of when they're out of your home, they won't continue to learn. No, they're going to continue to learn even as moms and wherever they are. So that's really cool that when you can teach them how to do that. Um, I'm going to ask you, can you share a famous Charlotte Mason quote that you love
Oh,
and
yeah.
what does it mean to you?
So I have so many, so that it was a little bit hard to narrow down to one, but I have in Home Education, page 152, Charlotte says, "But let them have tales of imagination, scenes laid in other lands and other times, heroic adventures, hairbreadth escapes, delicious fairy tales in which they are roughly pulled up by the impossible, even where all is impossible, and they know it, and yet they believe." And I really like that quote because it just shares the importance of a good living book and how you can travel lifetimes and worlds and just learn so much from a good story, a well-written story, and how
Mhm.
important it is for children to fuel their imagination and know that they don't need dragons to be real to know that they could beat a dragon. I
Yeah.
really, I
Yeah.
really appreciate that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And childhood is such a precious time. I don't think any of us realized it until we became adults. And it's funny because now my children are adults, and my one daughter just got married last year, and she was like, I just look back on those days and, wish I could be there again. And you don't really appreciate it until it's over. And, but yet that good basis will bring them through to their adulthood. And I was like, yeah, well, you went through it and you have a thankfulness and good memories, but you also, now it's your turn to carry that torch on to your children and give them the childhood that you loved, kind of a thing. So
Right.
that's how life works, and there's joy in that too. Like I don't know if I ever felt more joy than when I was seeing the joy in my children's faces, you know? Yeah. So you were
Like
saying,
relive in a second childhood, seeing the
yeah,
joy in
it
their
is. It's
faces.
really true. And yeah, and I have a few grandchildren now. They live further away, but I'm excited for the next part of our journey to see if I feel that again with as my grandchildren grow. I'm really excited to see how that goes. And yeah. So yeah, in with the quote that you gave us and how it's beautiful to you, how do you incorporate that nature study and that adventure and that outdoor activities? How do you work that into your homeschool day and homeschool life, really?
Well, so we do try to spend another famous quote of Charlotte Mason is, I don't even remember the exact quote, but she's always like, never be within doors when you can rightly be without. And I always think, yes, we should be outdoors more because that is childhood.
Yes,
Outdoors is
absolutely.
childhood.
Yeah.
And so I try to, even in the summer times, because you're from
Yeah.
Canada, so you know that the winters are horrible at
Yeah.
some point, and the winters are so cold and horrible here too. So whenever it's summer, we do our lessons outdoors. We spend as much time as we possibly can just being outside and outdoors. And then we also just we are always reading. We're always reading. I always carry books with me, and my children have picked up that habit too, which is so funny because
Yeah.
they don't have purses yet or anything, but they're always like, "Mom, can I bring my book in the car? Mom, can I have my book at the park?" So they always are bringing their books, and we're always ready to read a good story, and we
Yeah.
spend most of the time reading.
Yes. Yes. So one of my children had dyslexia, so they had trouble reading. And so the way we worked around that
Mine
was,
too, and me as well.
yeah. So, oh, please, then maybe we could go into that a little bit further. So what we did, and I'd like to hear what you did or doing for yourself and for your child. Um, we did a lot of audio. Like,
Mhm.
um, he loved to listen to stories. And to this day, he's 23 now. He still will turn on a good audiobook and listen to it and just enjoy that. But to make him sit down and read, that wasn't always easy for him. He struggled with reading. So you tell me what you do and how maybe a parent could overcome in that situation.
Oh, I mean, it is exactly the same. Like, and just like just finding books that they're so interested to read. I find that graphic novels are a little bit harder to find living graphic novels, but they're very helpful too. Just
Hmm.
seeing the picture, seeing the visual like story as well as reading the words. But we love audiobooks. I was really nervous to take on the Iliad, and I just read it, but I listened to the audiobook alongside reading the physical book. So that
Hmm.
way I knew how to say the names because I get hung up on names.
Yeah.
So that
So
was really
funny.
helpful. And it was such an enjoyable book because of that, like listening and reading. So I'll have my daughter do that. Um, we like to have audiobooks and we'll listen to audiobooks a lot. But then also I try to read out loud to her, and
Mhm.
that is very helpful. And then once I've read a book out loud that's around her level, I'll let her read it. And sometimes she wants to read it to me. I usually try to get her to read something to me just so that she kind of likes doing voices like I do. So
Oh,
she'll
that's
be
fun.
more inclined to read books if she has an audience. So that's been
Right.
very helpful with
Oh,
like
that is fun.
the
Yeah.
dyslexia is just like making it very low pressure and fun. Like do
Yeah.
voices.
Yeah.
Everybody's having fun, so.
Yeah, exactly. Are you navigating the rewarding but challenging journey of homeschooling? Do you sometimes wish for guidance tailored just for you and your family's unique needs? Hi, I'm Susie Lovers, Christian homeschool life coach, and I'm here to help you find clarity and peace in your homeschooling adventure. Join me on my podcast, Near Still Waters, where we explore the joys and hurdles of homeschooling with faith and love at the center. And here's something special just for you. I am offering a free one-on-one coaching session to help personalize your homeschooling experience, ensuring that it aligns with your family's values and goals. Whether you're looking for fresh teaching strategies, need help balancing your day, or want to deepen your self-awareness techniques, I'm here to support you. This is more than just advice. It's about building a community and growing together in faith and knowledge. Spaces are very limited, so don't wait. Visit nearstillwaters.ca or click the link in the episode description to schedule your free session today. Also, I'm offering a $27 course on children's different learning needs. So there's different ways that your children learn, and it's very important for you as a parent to discover what that is. I've created a course with a beautiful, full-fledged e-booklet to go with the course. It's just a mini course. It won't take long to get through, but the knowledge is abundant. Go to nearstillwaters.ca, click on the Unleashing Potential, find Nurturing Your Child's Learning Style. You will be able to download for $27 this small mini course, along with a beautiful workbook that you'll be able to go back to again and again, and you will be able to help your child in a way more effective way as a homeschool parent. This is a must-have for every homeschool parent. all at the low cost of $27. Get your copy today. So that was my next question, actually, for you. That so, what kind of a role does narration play in your homeschool, and how do you do that effectively? Like, can you tell a mom who's maybe looking into Charlotte Mason how that she could do that effectively?
Well, so when we started our formal lessons officially last year, I was learning how to do narration with my daughter, and it's a huge part. It's like it's a bigger part than I had ever expected it to be, but I see how beneficial it is. And so when you're first starting, you'll maybe read like a paragraph, and then you'll be like, all right, so why don't you tell back to me what I just read? And the child would do the best they can, and Charlotte Mason really makes sure that you don't interrupt the child and you don't say, well, actually it was this, and oh, you got this wrong. And you just let them, and you just see how much they remember. And then you, if they did pretty good, maybe you can read two paragraphs or even a page or eventually a chapter. And then not to get hung up on the little stuff, but just have them kind of practice narration. And so whatever we read, my oldest narrates back to me, and my 4 year old wants to, so I'll let her, but it's not actually required from her.
Mm,
But just having like the narration part is really good, because I think it helps you not only pay attention, but really understand yourself. Did I get what just happened? And then before we do another, like if we're reading a book and then we're going to read it again the next day, I'll do like a little recap, and it'll be so fun. She'll be like, oh, yes, I remember that. And then she'll start taking over the recap. And I'm like, okay,
mhm,
sure.
mhm.
So narration
Yeah.
is a huge part in just working the mind and kind of like understanding what you've read, but also you've said it in your own words, so you're more likely to remember it.
Oh yeah,
So,
that's 100% true. Like the speaking it out is,
mhm.
and it's proven in science really that speaking what you take in out helps you, yeah, remember and commit it to your memory so that you don't forget it. That's that's one of the very cool things about Charlotte Mason, how it all works together to bring the
He was
best
a
out.
genius. Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. So we talked a little bit about Deuteronomy 6 and teaching your children, but how has faith influenced your homeschool journey?
Well, what I really wanted out of my homeschool was everything to be Christ centered. And so I really love we start out with reading the Bible every day. Like no matter how sick anybody is, we're like, let's do the Bible. If we have to listen to it on like
Hmm.
audiobook, we will. If I physically can't read, but most days I can, no matter how like bad
Hmm.
I'm feeling. But then just having all that biblical knowledge, it'll be fun to like read a story, and then my child will make a connection. She'll be like, oh, like Noah in the Bible. And I'll be like, like I've tried
Yeah.
really hard
Yeah.
in the Narnia series. I'm like, don't tell her that Aslan is like Jesus, don't do it. But then she made the connection, and I was like, this is so exciting. Like her to see God in every story we read, or everything where she'll be like, oh, God created this flower. It's so beautiful. And I'll just like be so full of joy, like
Yeah.
that she just makes all these connections, and how
Yeah.
important Christ is to her at such a young age. So
Yeah. How old is she?
she's 7, and
Okay.
that's
Yeah.
it's really neat, because I didn't grow up as a Christian, so it's really neat seeing like
Oh yeah.
a love of God in children.
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And at 7, it's such a nice age anyway, because they're just
Yeah.
soaking it all in and and then they learn so much and they, yeah, it's just a really, and all the things that you've taught them from maybe 4 to 7 are all of a sudden they start coming out and when they learn how to read and all this kind of stuff on their own, it's just such a joy when you're a homeschooling
Hmm.
mom. It's just
And
amazing.
I feel like also, which was probably going to come in like as she gets older, but a good discernment of like what she reads, because eventually I won't be able to read every single book that she reads. And so I have faith that our faith has is like setting a really good foundation for discernment, where if she ever comes across something she's not comfortable with, she'll come and tell me and she'll say, "Hey, I don't think this book was very good because it
Hmm.
has this in it." Because
Hmm.
she'll do that with like words that we don't say, like stupid, she'll be
Yeah.
like, "Mom, this book had this. I don't know if it's a very good
Yeah.
book." And I'll be like, "Well, okay, let's read it together and let's see the
Yeah.
content." Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah. So how do you and reading the Bible, but in other ways, how do you incorporate your Christian values into your daily homeschool activities?
Well, so we try to bring everything we learn back to God to make sure that it measures up to it. And so, we pray about everything. It's like when we do anything, we're like, well, thank you, God, that we could have this experience, and just seeing the beauty and everything, and just always bringing it back to God. We are we have like a lot of outdoor activities, not necessarily outside, but like out of our classroom in our home. Like we have our church, and so we do like a lot of stuff with our church. There is a homeschool co-op that is at our church that I like to help out. We haven't joined it though yet because I'm like, oh, I just like teaching everything so much. But
Hmm.
just my kids, doing vacation Bible school, and just doing like anything with our church, and then we can bring it back into our homeschool where they'll be drawing pictures of like biblical stuff, and they'll be like, narrating back to me what we've read, and always bringing it back to God.
Hmm. Yeah, that's and that community is important. But yeah, giving up your children when you just love to do it yourself can be
So
a hard thing. I
I'm like,
understand
when
that.
they're older, when there's
Yeah,
chemistry to teach, they can do a
for sure.
co-op.
So does your daughter or either one of your older daughters, do they ever have questions or challenges that they may have about faith? And how do you deal with that? And um, how do you get them through that?
Well, it's actually because everything we teach everything from the Bible. I think like a lot of harder questions are easier to answer at younger ages. I don't go into the specifics, but like not at like young ages, but like when my kids come to me at like age 4 and say, where are babies from? It is so easy to tell them from God and have that be the truth, and not need to go into like too much
Hmm.
specifics at a young age, until they're ready. But I found it to be it's been so beneficial to answer really hard questions, like about death or anything, and then just use the Bible. It's something that I used to worry about. And then I'm like, oh, like just explaining God's character to them, and sharing God and his plan and his purpose. It's just made hard topics so much easier to talk about, especially like younger ages when they're not ready for the full extent.
Hmm. For sure, yeah. And that could be where you intertwine your homeschooling and faith, and
Mhm.
um, and also it can be meaningful to discuss those things. Um, I think some of the most meaningful discussions we had with our kids, or I had with my kids, was like in the van going to homeschool things because we'd be listening to a song or we'd be listening to a story, and then the questions would happen, and those are the times that they're open to talk. And even as they get older, you'll go into that too. As they get older, they have begin to have more difficult questions and
Mhm.
more, and then it's such a blessing to be able to be there and to be able to answer them out of God's word, um, as we are given knowledge to do that, and will grow and expand you also in your answering. It's such a
Yes.
beautiful way. Yeah, yeah, such a
Definitely
beautiful way to
a big like importance for me to have like a good strong foundation, so that when those hard questions come up, I know where in the Bible they can be found, and like how to proceed. So even just like making a daily quiet time for myself to be in God's word every day has been so beneficial to answer all of these questions too.
Yeah, I know. And like I think too, sometimes like people that are like not churched, and you probably deal with that more because you come from a background, but they think, well, how can you have a well-rounded education? Um, but to me, I don't know, you can tell me your thoughts on that too. Like a well-rounded education includes God, and without it, you can't really have a well-rounded education.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, I think yeah, you're like when you know that everything comes from God and God created everything, and then you'd find in public schools they teach like just guesses as fact. it's
Hmm.
really hard it's really hard to realize like a lot of this stuff I have to unlearn because this isn't quite true. And even they have like, like especially in science, they would say something is true or something is fact, but it would just be what they thought at the time. And then, I mean, I remember being so crushed when they said Pluto wasn't a planet. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Of course Pluto is a planet. It's my favorite planet. And so it just like saying something God created and then just like changing what it is or what it isn't like constantly and never having like a stable foundation because it's all guesses versus God's never changing. God is always the same as he is yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And so having that solid foundation that never changes, I think is really beneficial for kids because they're like, oh, this stayed the same. This has always stayed the same versus things that are
Yeah.
ever changing.
Yeah. It's funny that when you say, oh, they said Pluto wasn't a planet anymore, how that devastated you as a child.
It really
That's
did.
actually
It really did. I had
that's
like one
such
of
a
those
funny.
rulers with all the planets and Pluto, and I always would say like Pluto's my favorite. And then one day they're like, it's not a planet anymore.
And like, hello, it was always the same, always has been the same, and whatever you're saying is just your idea because it's always
Yes,
been the same and always will be.
right.
Okay, that's funny. Anyway, what are some of the biggest challenges you've faced while homeschooling your three daughters or two daughters? I'm assuming you're just
Yes,
beginning with the one.
my
Yeah,
18-month-old, she's just along
yeah,
for the ride.
yeah.
Well, I feel that anytime that, especially when I'm adding a new child to our household, the pregnancy and just like the newborn stage, they're a little bit more challenging because I am not at my best.
Hmm.
I'm tired. And so just homeschooling, my husband's mom is in Japan and my family's all far away, except my sister, but she works a lot. So just having like nobody else around to help
Hmm.
and then like homeschooling not at your best has been a big challenge, but just praying about it and giving myself grace and just knowing that they can learn so much through books. If I'm tired and I'm sitting on the couch but I can read to them, I'm like we got the Bible done, I got we read a bunch of books, like I feel content and that
Yeah,
they've learned a lot even though it doesn't seem like it, like we
yeah.
didn't sit down at the table and did like a bunch of workbook stuff, so.
Yeah. So so you feel that when life circumstances hit you kind of hard, that
Mhm.
you can continue because you're just reading and getting feedback, and you feel that that is an advantage rather than saying, "Well, I've got to complete all of this." You've completed a lot, even
Yes,
just if you have to lay in bed, kind of a thing.
right.
Yeah,
So like
and that
homeschooling on hard days, like Charlotte Mason has set you up to succeed no matter what your life circumstances are.
Yeah, and that's really cool. I when I was homeschooling my younger children, I was in bed for a good year. And I really felt like, oh, I've really failed in that way. But I was able to set up things so that they could go online and
Mhm.
complete a lot of the tasks that I couldn't do with them at the time. And and then do I feel like it was the best thing for them at the time? But at the time it was the best thing because
Yeah,
that's what I could give them. And so not being able to do what you feel like you want to do doesn't necessarily always mean failure. It just means a pivot, a pivot to a
right.
different direction. And
This is how it's
and that
looking at this season in life.
that's right, exactly. Um, so how do you manage that? Like even just on a normal day when things are going okay, how do you manage homeschooling multiple children at different educational levels.
Well,
And your
so
toddler, we talked a little bit about that too.
yeah.
Like having a little one, like how that makes things a little bit more complicated.
Well, definitely just I like to do stuff with her first so that she has her bucket filled. She's got her mom time and she feels very special. And then I'll have her play with either, my oldest or my middle, and then I will spend some time with whoever isn't playing with her. Or I'll have the two youngest play while I'm doing lessons with my oldest. And then I'll make sure that you know, and I guess she's not really a toddler anymore. She's more like preschool, they would categorize her as, but like my 4-year-old, read her. I like to read her 3 books a day, at
Mhm.
least. She's got her 3 books she picks out, and just sitting on my lap and having that one-on-one time really also fills her bucket where she
Mhm.
feels like she's done something.
Mhm.
And so she's a little bit like she's a little less like, oh, I want to do this too. And, she's welcome to do any of like the family subjects, but like when it comes to math, she'll like look at the workbook and she'll be like, it's okay, I don't have to do that too, because if I don't do that, she'll usually be like, where's my workbook? So I
Mhm.
really like I really like just filling their buckets up first and spending time with like youngest to oldest first, and then I feel like I have a little more free time. And then we also utilize nap time. Like when the baby is just not having a great day, when she goes down for a nap, I'm like, okay, let's get,
Now,
what we can done,
yeah.
and not the whole nap time either, because sometimes, like quiet time is important for everybody. I feel having that quiet space to just play and be bored or use your
Mhm.
imagination is really important each day too. So,
Yes, for sure. I actually have just completed a podcast series on homeschool mom burnout, and
oh, I was
just look
listening to some of
yeah, so just looking back on that, then I think one of the most effective means for me was to get my breaks in. Like I had 7 children, and my last three were like two and a half, one and a half, two and a half, and then one, and then I had a baby again. So they were very, very close together. So that was, of course, I had older kids to help out at that
them.
point in time. But I do remember putting them, like, I'm giving them all their books that they wanted into their room or toys or whatever. And then, you know, giving them an individual time because we were a large family. And, and it was important for them to, like you say, connect with themselves. And then I would take my nap at that time or
Mhm.
rest. And so, yeah, that self care, to be intentional about self care, or you just won't get it. Like if you
Yes, very true.
don't do that. So that was another question I had. I don't know if you've ever felt burnt out or feel like you're burning out, and how would you cope
Oh,
with
yeah.
that? And yes.
Well, I definitely, yeah, quiet time is a big part of our day. I make sure, unfortunately, there are some days where it doesn't happen because we were just somewhere and maybe the quiet time happened during the drive. Like when the baby falls asleep on the drive home from anywhere, you're like, well, that's going to be nap
Mhm.
time. But
Yep.
I'll still try to set everyone up with some toys, in their own little space. The girls can play together if during that time if they're outside, because then the house inside will at least stay quiet so that the baby can sleep, because she is the lightest sleeper.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
just everybody having their own like quiet, time. That's when I like to read a book for myself. And yes, it just helps you recharge for the second half of the day. And then I don't feel as burnt out, because
yeah.
when I don't get that quiet time, around 4 o'clock, I'm like, why am I already ready for bed? like
It's
I'm not gonna
tiring
make it.
and
Yeah.
intense. Yeah, it really is. Um, so can you share, like, I know you've kind of shared that you do your devotionals and that's a non-negotiable, but on a good day when you think, like today went really good and I accomplished everything that I wanted to accomplish, how can you share maybe a bit of how your typical homeschool day goes?
Oh, sure. So, I like to do so when everything goes well, I like to do morning time, quiet time for myself, and that's starting with the Bible. And then I feel ready to start the girls with the Bible. We'll all have breakfast together. I used to be able to be the first one done, and we would do it at that time, but now the baby finishes way faster than I do. So I will usually have everyone finish, and then we'll start reading directly from the Bible. And then we'll do like our little storybook Bible too, to just kind of just just like give that visual and help everyone just kind of remember the story more. Um, and then we'll do like I really plan on like Sundays, especially like our homeschool day, and I try to keep it short because I'm shooting for an hour usually for lessons. And it's not a consistent like hour, it'll be like an hour at least throughout the day. So that when there are hiccups, I can
Yeah.
just go to the other children and help them. But
Yeah.
so then we do a lot of like we do math and reading and copy work every day, which is like handwriting for us. And um then we'll do beauty subjects on a loop. So maybe on Mondays we'll do watercolor. On Tuesdays we'll do poetry tea time. And maybe Wednesdays we'll do, Wednesdays actually usually we during the fall through spring, we have Bible study that we all go to together. So we have different things that we do each day. And so keeping things on like a loop, but then also having our core subjects that we do every day that we can kind of just improve with daily. That's just how we do it. And it's been very beneficial to just set it
Yeah.
up that way, short.
Yeah. That actually is really good. I was just reading one mom who she just did her, like when she first started Charlotte Mason, she started with her core subjects and
Mhm,
got them really down pat. And then she began that second part of her goal was to include the beautiful things like the tea time
mhm,
and art and watercolor and all that kind of stuff. And so she then began to add that in, and then she continued to down the steps until she was doing Charlotte Mason fully. So, and that's
mhm.
kind of what I find beautiful too, in that sense that you can just, you don't have to have it all right to begin with.
Right,
Like just
right.
start where you are, and incorporate small habits, and that's in life total.
Mhm,
But like in this in where you're trying, if there's a mom trying to get into the Charlotte Mason style of learning, that they can just do it gently and slowly as it works for their family. And you've obviously incorporated that system into your homeschool also, so that's really good. You did say that you don't have family close by and that you're kind
no.
of alone, or I don't know if your husband's family is there, but how do you involve other family members? Where do you get your support? And I know God is your strength, but where do you get support in outside of that?
Well, so yeah, all of our family, oh, so my husband's family is Japan, and then my family's kind of far away, except for my sister. And she was homeschooled, because I'm adopted, and they had 6 kids of their own, and they had homeschooled. But since I was never legally adopted, I still had to go to public school. But
No.
they were a Christian family that took me in. But just having my sister had that experience of homeschool, sometimes I just like to talk to her and I'm like, what did mom do for you with this? Or, what was your fondest memory? What can I like hope to like bring to my homeschool that would be something that stuck out that they enjoyed? And I really like hearing her perspectives on it. And I like how encouraging she is. She's like, I just wanted to say you're doing great. And it just builds me up to have
Hmm.
her do that. But I think our biggest community is just the one we built here, with friends. And I really like to talk to like veteran homeschool moms around me who have like children my age who,
Yeah.
they'll tell me what they did. And, I like to hear the wisdom that they passed down. And that builds me up as well, as knowing like they've done it. I can do it too. It'll be okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I always say to homeschool moms or anyone, even my own daughter, I say, like some days the days are long. Like
Mhm.
sometimes they are long, but the years are actually short and it goes very, very quickly. I have a daughter-in-law who's expecting her third child, and some days she's so good with her kids and she just loves them. But some days are long and hard. And especially she's going through pregnancy right now. And I try to tell her that when I keep going. It'll pass, but remember to enjoy each day, each moment as you have them, because it may seem like it's tough now, but in 10, 15 years, you'll be thankful for every moment you had with each of your children. Yeah.
That's
So
exactly how I felt about the newborn stage. My first time, I was like, just hurry up and like grow up and sleep through the night. It's so hard. And by the third, I'm like, please don't grow up. Please stay like a newborn forever. Like, and I missed that newborn smell. Like,
yeah,
I really appreciate the stages, and I now am praying for them to go much slower than
yeah.
in the very beginning, where I was praying for them to hurry up. So
Yeah. Yeah. I remember people saying, oh, nighttime feedings. And I was like, yeah, I enjoy nighttime feedings because I get
yeah,
them to myself.
that connection, yes.
Yeah. So I'm just some more business related questions. What inspired you to begin an Instagram account and how did it grow? And tell me a little bit about your Instagram journey.
Well, when I first started it, I started it about four years ago after I had my second, and I just wanted to like document our homeschool journey. I just wanted like a place to like share what we were doing. I had started following a couple homeschool moms, and I really liked what they were sharing, so I wanted to do that myself. And then it started growing organically, and it was really fun to like make a community and meet all these other homeschool moms who were in the same boat as me or different than me, and just connect. I really enjoyed that about Instagram. And just helping people. Like I don't have much wisdom to share, but I have encouragement. When people
Mhm.
are like, I don't know if I could do this, I can be like, well, let me be your cheerleader because
Yeah.
you certainly can. I
Yeah.
really enjoy that.
Yeah, that is that, and we were talking about that community. And when I was homeschooling, we had our community, but it wasn't large. It was just a small homeschool group, and I really loved it, and I was very close to all those mothers. Like I know there's some groups that are like 50, 60, 70 families. We were like 8 families, but we did everything together. And I just have some really fond memories of sitting down with those moms and discussing and just enjoying each other's company. And that community, that closeness does help support you and connect in that way. But do you find that social media helps you connect with other
I
homeschool moms
I
in a
think it
meaningful
definitely
way?
does. Yes.
In a
Oh,
meaning,
definitely. Yes. I
okay.
like I
Yeah.
I will ask people questions. I'll be like, we have like a very close-knit like Charlotte Mason group where we'll ask each other like, hey, how do we do this? What's a good book for this? I really don't understand this. And just getting like that feedback from the moms, like, oh, well, I use this book, or oh, this is what we did, or here's an idea, is just so
Yeah.
helpful when you
Yeah.
are feeling like you don't know what to do.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think too, when we were doing it, everybody had their own method. But to talk with somebody who's using your method is just a wonderful opportunity to learn more as a homeschool mom. What kind of feedback do you get and engagement do you have with your followers?
Now I would say it's mostly positive. In the very beginning, when I was just documenting, I wasn't really trying to do much except just have like a place to go back to and be like, look, here's what we did. I would get like negative comments like, you're wasting your children's lives or education, you can't homeschool, that kind of stuff. That doesn't really happen anymore. Social media, you only get criticism now, it seems, when your post goes viral. So so
Yeah.
as long as you kind of keep in your own community, you get really like
Mhm.
positive feedback. Or I love when moms will come and say like, thank you so much for sharing this. This was really helpful. I'm always like, really? It was helpful? Thank you. Like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just wanted to put something like joyful out there, or
Yeah.
like something that I love. Like, here's a book list
Yeah.
I love. And they're like, this is so helpful. And I'm like, oh, thank you. It's
Yeah.
always very humbling, and it makes me feel so much joy.
Yes. Yeah. So as a homeschool mom coach, I experience that also. And that is my goal, right? To be a support and a help to any homeschool moms that may um, enjoy or want to learn from what I have learned. And of course, I've been through it. Doesn't mean I have everything all figured out, but if we can be here to support and help each other, that's a blessing, and that also honors God in that way. Yeah. So, do you have anything more that you would like to add to our conversation, or do you feel like most of the subjects we have
I
covered?
think I think everything has been covered. I know that it's really hard when you're a new homeschool mom and you are trying to make the decision like, how can I make this work? How can I do this if I work or if we're on a single income or anything like that? But I feel like God just really opens the pathways and paves a way for you to homeschool no matter what your circumstances. I've seen like every single circumstance and moms or dads homeschooling in it. And it's just been so encouraging knowing like if this is what you want to do, you can make it happen.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So thank you for coming on today. I've really enjoyed talking with you and learning, and I hope that this can be a blessing to moms and that they will be able to glean some knowledge and help in whatever circumstance they're in. So thank you
And
very much.
thank you so much for inviting me on. It was such a pleasure to talk with you.